Hi, happy Wednesday. Hope everybody's alright. I just did a couple of videos and I was so giddy. I really cheered myself up, and then the light hit my face and I was like, oh, just calm down and try and coagulate your thoughts. I think I'm just glad to be expressing. I've got a little bit of time and I really just feel like I need to rejuvenate and just take very basic good care of myself, like breathing and remembering to eat and, drink enough and try and sleep and meditate and things like this. I feel like for the last few weeks, I've felt like a disconnected brain floating around somewhere. And I've exhausted myself. And while I've been like meandering these different scopes or sectors, on YouTube, because that's all I do. And I think we all use YouTube for different things. I tend to use it to watch the person's personal journey as opposed to their information. So there's like a handful of people that I've been watching for years, watching their growth or their declination or their triumph, or along with mine. Some mirror my own very, very much, and some are the polar opposite. And I guess I use those observations to ignite something within me to readdress my own moral compass and code. So it's all super cool, but I'm such a nosy bitch, and so I'm really interested in the psychology of things. And I think since taking psychedelics and starting the healing journey, obviously that was accelerated massively when I had this sort of mystical experience this night. But again, I've touched on that so much over the years in my videos, and I really relate with other people who have actually said the same, where they've said that these mystical experiences or these alien encounters happen when we're at a real low ourselves, when we're very weak and vulnerable. Our psyche is malleable and weak, and our energetic shields are down. And there's something to that. I think Terence McKenna was mentioning about people's experiences with UFOs and stuff, about how after further questioning, after they've got the story, and he'd gone back and questioned further, that, these people were in a bit of a state of unrest at the moment, or just before the moment of contact or whatever, and that he sort of labelled it as like a time of crisis, an experience of crisis. So these things really interest me, and because I had my own sort of mystical experience and needing to find out more, and it set me off on my whole journey. And I find that, like, interestingly, I'm continuously coming back to myself, which is good. I'm guessing that's what we're supposed to do, just come back and find our own resonances. But personally, I've had some kind of like dissonance with the whole narrative of aliens, or the way that aliens have been portrayed to us or me or whatever. And I do wonder why. I've always been turned off by sci-fi and shit like that. I never watched it as a kid. I didn't read anything that was too fantastical, apart from like Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and I liked the Harry Potter books and shit like that. But I was always turned off by fiction. I wanted fact and gritty murder shit, like psychological thrillers, and anything that was supposed to be true crime, interested me, and things like that. So, and the only thing that I ever really enjoyed watching on TV was Big Brother, or any of those sort of early days reality shows, where you can really watch people. That reminds me, this morning, Jackie Stallone, fucking classic. Yeah, Jackie. No one will get that, but oh man, yeah. So anyway, as I've been like meandering all these different sectors of the internet recently, and I'm just like, fuck's sake, we're just constantly complicating things with our human imagination, and the human imagination is reality, and that's difficult to explain or to interpret or to comprehend, and you can only trust your own truth on that, you know, how your thoughts create your reality and your experiences of that, with experiences like synchronicity or serendipity or, you know, all these fucking cool things that we can do. Lucid dreaming, you know, all these fucking things. It's so cool. Shit, where am I? I'm so all over the show. So we are creating everything. And I've come to realize that, like, and I've said this so many times, but like baseline reality for us in this day and age, in this Western world, or maybe all over now, who knows, is run by the media, you know, the mainstream media and the politicians and whatever. That's baseline reality. Overlaid on top of that are so many other realities, and it's, you know, it's super complicated, but it is we do each have our own universe, and it is it. So it's like, it's all beautiful sort of energy, consciousness that is really not us and who we think we are. Anyway, fucking hell, it's so beautiful. Anyway, basically, I've been looking and listening to too many things that have just been too digging, more complexifying, more labeling, more, you know, confounding of this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, fucking hell, I'm done with it. And I feel like collectively that is what's happening, that we're at this point, and this coronavirus has shown this so much by the use of science, you know, in such the wrong way. It's almost like science, this is, you know, the left brain, the reductionism, the materialism, the, you know, this physical shit, that overlay is so rotten that it needs a shock. The collective consciousness needs a shock. And Terence McKenna talks about the myth or the archetype of the flying saucer, and how this has always appeared to humans at different points in time. I mean, he goes on about it in loads of different ways as well, but did I get any notes? That was it, yeah. He says, you know, that the UFO is an idea to confound science, because science is ruining humanity, basically. It's betrayed human destiny, you know, with, like, whether they exist or not, you know, like nuclear bombs, or even just fucking Elon Musk and him just polluting the sky with his Starlink satellite constellation, giving off 5G just because he can. You know, that offends me so much. I'm like, did Elon Musk ask God if he could infiltrate the skies, you know? Because, you know, they're clearly there. You can see them, like the little helicopter on Mars. I'm doubtful of. But anyway, and he says it's like when the human collective consciousness, when it needs a shock, we get this hyper entity from the stars. But obviously, Terence McKenna experimented with psychedelics so much, and he used the word alien to describe his DMT trips or his interactions with mushrooms or entities on these subjects on these compounds, you know. And it's really interesting because I've had quite a bit of experience as well, and I've always tried to do things sensibly and psychoanalyze what's going on, and try and understand what I'm attaching through ego and through my own pre-programming, whether that's my own upbringing or my own education, interest, blah, blah, blah. You know, really just trying to see it for what it is. And as yet, I haven't come into contact with an alien being of any kind, but I've experienced very alien things. You know, audio in my ear that is not from me would be alien technically. But I feel like language and labels and ego ruins everything. I feel like people, like, they want to fanciful shit, that's the wrong word. Fancifies, that's the wrong word. That's another one. They want to make things fanciful. They want to throw glitter on it, you know, to for whatever reason, a bit like when I had my first mystical experience, which wasn't on psychedelics, by the way, but, you know, a big green light appeared in my room, and a crystal materialized in thin air that was like some translucent plasma crystal, and I needed to know what that was. You know, it started off my journey of everything, but along with that came like a couple of weeks of psychosis, like genuine psychosis, where I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I thought I was some chosen one from God and I was on some mission to save the world, like. And that makes me laugh my tits off now, but there are so many people that are still convinced of that. They're in that state. And then within that state, they're creating these pockets of consciousness, these narratives, these ideas, whether it's, you know, it doesn't even matter. They're all labeled as conspiracy, but just these ideas are being floated out. We give them the attention, you know, and we can relate to certain bits of them. And they grow like that. And it seems really weird to me, because it's like, I feel like everything, our relationship to consciousness is so goddamn personal that to expect genuine, true, shared experience where people aren't attaching the ego and going, you know, because I resonate with the stars. I'm into astrology. Sometimes I feel like maybe like the 12 tribes are like the 12 constellations, and that, you know, consciousness stems from star systems or light or energy through the source. You know, we come through like that, and there's so much truth in the birth charts, you know, and there's so many psychological keys and clues in the birth charts to really help us bring ourselves forward and knock off the programming and things, you know. Shit, the battery's going. It's so interesting, yeah. And because I've taken psychedelics, I know that there's this all-encompassing eternity overlaid behind this one, but I also feel through my own personal experience that it is very personal as well. And I've always felt like, I've known this, all my experiences have been very similar on mushrooms or even DMT or LSD or whatever. Yeah, I sound like I've had loads and loads. I haven't. But whatever, you know. I guess I'm interested in these things. Maybe I'm a psychonaut. But anyway, and I've noticed that they are personal. They're interacting with me. This alien overlay is interacting with me through my own frequency of consciousness and my attention. And I've had so many experiences where I'm in the soup of the universe. I'm in the soup of everything, and infinity is just unfolding like in front of me, and I couldn't even begin to describe the intricacies of what's going on. I know that I couldn't consciously have the ability to make that art and beauty, that everlasting thing happen. But what I also recognise is that I can change that that universal eternity with my own consciousness and intent and frequency, and how I'm emanating my consciousness. It feels like it's both sort of from there and, you know, maybe the heart as well. It's you know, it's a dual-pronged attack, it feels like. And with that, it's the same shit you do with lucid dreaming or whatever. You're controlling the consciousness. And again, for me, very stereotypically, but I've had examples where left's felt a bit more dark and fearful, and right, which is, you know, obviously I could logically rationalise and go with the creative brain and blah, blah, blah. But it's always felt fluffier, and I can change images, or, you know, if I've had terrifying dreams or whatever, I get myself out of the dream, or I can change the image. And so I know that at some level I am controlling the alien or the apparition or the field of consciousness or the plasma, whatever it is. It's very interactive with us, very personal. That's why our synchronicities are personal. That's why I saw 144 when I looked up, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, yeah, so it's interesting to me because we've been fed and programmed this very obvious way of interpreting aliens, and now we're just starting to get, you know, the feed of different races of aliens coming in. For me, I think we are the aliens. We are the aliens, and I think we are the collective consciousness. We are the alien, the entity behind the screen. And so if we're in fear and darkness, that's what we're going to experience, as above, so below. But there is more of a, you know, a collective sort of feel to this. But anyway, yeah, and Terence McKenna's like, it's just a collective idea. And once we acknowledge it and we stop shunning it, we'll be able to face whatever it is that manifests. But he talks about how we need to decondition the idea of the religion of the UFO before it comes, like retain our freedom of thought and critical thought on this matter. And I've always felt like I'm doing that subconsciously, you know, I just don't really resonate with how it's all portrayed. And so then we get this new age narrative where it's like, and then all of a sudden everybody's a starseed. And like, that's where I was going with this. It's like, I resonate with that, but I don't resonate with it enough to say it as truth or fact, you know, as opposed to some sort of invisible resonance of spiritual or galactic history. I don't know, but it's like, I'm here right now, and I feel like we're always trying to take things away, whether it's, you know, up to space, we're all this, that, and the other. It's like, I don't know, like, I don't know, fuck knows. But it's interesting because all this disclosure's happening about UFOs, and, you know, does it matter whether I believe it or not? Who fucking knows? I don't know. It's just, I feel like I'm glad that I have a healthy dose of skepticism about this, because from what I observe, I feel like a lot of it is ego attachment to the idea of these things, you know, to the idea of being a Pleiadian, or the idea of being, you know, somebody from Octurus or whatever, aside from owning the fact that that's our own states of consciousness, or it's our own, it's us that's reflecting back, you know, almost in the way that I think, oh, where did I write it down? It was so cool. It was Terence. Oh, yeah. So the flying saucer represents an instance of crisis between the individual and the overmind, collective consciousness, where the overmind breaks through the oppressive screen thrown around it and comes to meet the individual like an interview with an angel or a demon. An interview with an angel or a demon, you know, depending on our own set and setting, you know, psychologically. And so it's very laden with heavy psychological resonances for the person experiencing it, you know, so it's going to come through to you just right for you. But yeah, so it's really interesting because I'm just, you know, it's kind of like, feels kind of like obvious to me in a very obscure way where we're going to go with this whole thing, because of how we've been sort of pushed towards it up until now. But again, this is not for me. I always feel like, you know, that I don't like saying that I'm skeptical about all this stuff, because I'm, you know, in resonance with so many people who would declare themselves as a starseed. Because, you know, I guess it's like if there was a end of the world thing and it was like starseeds this way, I guess I'd follow that arrow as well, you know, unless there was a better label point me a different way. Labels, fuck's sake. So yeah, anyway, and yeah, so the archetype of the flying saucer is calling people. That's what this disclosure is. So it'll be interesting to see how baseline reality, which is run by the media, will portray this phenomena. Yeah, but I think Terence McKenna sort of, he was, from what I was listening to anyway, he was almost talking about the idea of the flying saucer being the aura, you know, like the golden aura. He talked about it's at the point where you turn the man inside out, where the body goes on the inside and the soul is worn on the outside, like a flying saucer, you know, a golden sheath, or a halo. What's a sheath? But yeah, super, super interesting. And like, yeah, anyway, whatever. What else did I want to say? Boom. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I've been watching things unfold in the rhesus negative scope as well recently. And I've spoken about this on and off for years now, because it was one of the things that came through to me when I had this mystical experience. And I've had this feeling that persecution is coming again for rhesus negatives. And I think the last time was probably, you know, the witch hunts, or maybe there was, you know, maybe it's just perpetual or whatever, who knows. But as I'm seeing, you know, this disgusting, perpetual, complex divide, and we're at the race divide now again, which is hilarious because, as Richard Grannon said the other day, there is no such thing as race. Only plants have race, you know. It's like different breeds, like dogs, but race, no, all the human race, you know. Although this rhesus negative thing is so I'm thinking to myself, they've got it down now to, you know, dividing through race. The next micro, you know, the next level inside that is genetics, isn't it? It's blood, and it will be blood wars. And what's really interesting is that I feel like I was kind of forewarned about this. This could be egoic, and so don't trust this. Don't take anything I'm saying as fact. None of it is fact, in fact. Oh, and that's so freeing, you know, to be able to say, I know nothing, thank fuck. But anyway, so I've been watching it, and people that are not rhesus negative really don't seem to understand it. They seem to get scared by it, and they create and perpetuate these reptilian narratives. And you know, there's things that really do feel true about some of it. You know, people say there's truth and lies in everything. But what I've noticed is the gathering momentum of hatred. Most of it comes from religious folk, you know, who think that we're fallen angels, or Nephilim or whatever. And what's been really bothering me, aside from that, because obviously this has gone on forever, it's not a new thing, like persecution of people, whoever it is. But always what offends me so much is this hypocrisy that seems to be laden with these so-called religious people who use scripture to preach hate. Whoa, I mean, it's just mental. It's mental. And I watch these things, I get triggered by them, tempted to comment all the time, but I'm just like, no. I'm conserving myself. I'm saving my thoughts to do a video about this, because every so often I feel like I have to do this. Just I have to stand up for the side here and just, you know, explain a few things, quell a few myths. And what's really frustrating is that within the rhesus negative community itself, it's full of people who are well into ego attachments and labels, and because it's so visceral, experiencing your own reality, I feel like people take their personal relationship with alien or God or whatever, all their life up until that point, and then they egoically apply their personal truth to all. And that seems to happen. There's a lot of people going, you know, wanting to perpetuate narratives that are dangerous and super paranoid and just not right at all. And so I feel like disclosure's great, like disclosure's coming, but it's like there's going to be at some point this whole rhesus negatives are alien reptilians, look, all the presidents are, and all the royal family. And it's like, I'm feeling like there's so much more we don't know about this. It's all twisted and back to front, and I've got a lot of, you know, collected thoughts about these things, and I'm always like logging the inversions and things, a bit like when people say, oh, they must be Nephilim or whatever, because they must be evil, because their body kills their own baby if the baby's got rhesus positive blood. And it's like, yeah, that can happen, but it's very fucking rare. In fact, I watched a video the other day where this rhesus negative midwife was talking about the statistics and how rare it is, and you don't really need a RhoGAM shot or an anti-D shot. It's not necessary. It would be necessary if you had a massive hit or whatever and your blood swapped or whatever, but to just have the idea that, oh yeah, it's like, it's not true. It's not true. It's like, I know people who've not had these shots. I mean, what did they do before the shots? You know, obviously some babies died, but loads didn't, you know, but they want to make out as if rhesus negative women are these witchy evil things who kill their own. And I've mentioned before in the videos, for me, it's very simple. You only have to look at a chart of the diagrams of the blood cells to understand how an alien theory is completely inverted. But I'm not saying there's not different breeds of humans, because I've been like pondering this my whole life, like, you know, like NPCs or background people or soulless people, or, you know, just sort of dark people, and oh, they're different breeds, not races, nothing to do with the skin colour. It's like, what is white? There's how many countries around the world? Like, what kind of white am I? Am I French white, German white? So many people think I'm German. But anyway, so yeah, so these things have been on my mind, and I just feel like it's interesting that we can't really have any kind of nuanced civil discussion because of these ferocious tribal ideologies, whichever one it is and whichever way it is. And it's like, yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna have to go now, but hopefully I'll do more videos. And I hope everybody's still here. I think I've lost a few subs over the month, but who gives a shit? Happy Wednesday, bye.